There's a record store on the square. I could spend almost every second of the day there, searching for music and memories. There's an ice cream shop down the road. I stop in and pick up a cone.
Sorry. I was like, I grabbed everything and I always forget a lighter. Babe. I have one in here. Thank you. Sorry, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna kick you out. I'm gonna end up having like do everything for me. So I didn't consider the sleeves in the whole.
Yeah, they're a little hangy, yeah.
Uh,
They hang down a little bit.
yeah. It's probably just I mean, it's 2X, so I was like, yeah, this thing's gonna swallow me anyways.
So I couldn't find a one size fits all robe in black, and I really wanted them to be black. And so I was like, well, if I just get like a gigantic one, then that's kind of one size ish. It would almost right. So like you guys' robe is Drew Kennedy, and y'all are nowhere near the same stature. So yeah.
Good deal. All right. Well, I'm ready.
All right. So, how did you get your start in music?
It was definitely a lot different, I guess, from most people. I know everybody has like their unique story, but typically, at least with a lot of my friends, they all started, they started playing when they were a lot younger, or they started in church, or they had roots in it for a while. And for me, so my entire family was like a band family, and going through grade school. So I was in band, and then my mom was our youth choir director. My mom's older brother was our organ player for the church. My cousin was on the drums. We were all in the choir. But whenever I was really young, like I'm a tiny person, so like I think I was like 9 or 10, and I mean I was a soprano. I think at that age, at my size, I couldn't be anything but, and I was the youngest person in the choir, and I was the only soprano. And there was a kid that I went to school with that so my mom would work with like the different octaves, and so whenever she got to me, it was just me, and he was. The girls were in the front, the guys were in the back, and I just remember hearing this laughing from the back, and he was making fun of me because I mean I was the only soprano. It's like a little small hometown choir, and so my voice was really high. And I was a very shy, impressionable kid. I was reading this comic earlier that actually I was like, wow, that really applies to me. Is this guy? He was like, oh no, other people's approval, my one weakness. And so that's kind of how I was growing up, unfortunately, just because I was so shy, and um, I felt I didn't have a lot of friends, although that was really, I think, more so my fault because I didn't talk to anyone. Um, but he said that, and I was just like, oh, there must be, something wrong with me. At that age, that's how I thought. And so I didn't sing. I was still in choir, and I hate to say this, but I would just like lip sync, and my mom didn't understand it, and I didn't really know how to, talk to her about it. I didn't really know how to talk, period. Again, going back to just not I was terrible at communicating, just in general. So I didn't sing for about, oh god, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 years, and then I grew up right outside of Tyler, Texas, and then whenever I graduated, I moved to Stephenville to start going to school at Tarleton, and I was raised very. Uh, I don't want to say strict, but I don't really know any other word for it. Like we didn't go out, we didn't party. I didn't have my first drink until like years after or like about a year after I moved away from home. Um, like I didn't really experience much of anything, and so whenever I got to college, I won't say that, like, as the kids say, I won't say I like wild out or anything like that. But I started going out a lot more. I started going dancing, and I really got into the live music scene. I mean, I lived like 10 minutes away from at the time, the biggest venue in town was City Limits. And so, they had a bunch of concerts going on there. And Stephenville being a smaller town, there wasn't a lot to do on the weekends. There was stuff to do. But I really got into the music scene. And so I remember it was the day before Valentine's Day. I'd been a fan of William Clark Green since I'd started listening to country whenever I was like, I think 12 or 13. And he was coming into town. I was like, oh, I've loved his music for years. I want to go see him. And it just, I think I've seen him about at least 50 times since then. But
yeah, I've taken from your Twitter. You have a William Clark Green obsession a little bit.
A little bit, but and like that is how it started. And then as time went by, and I was literally at all of his shows, we actually got to talking, and I consider him a friend and somebody that I can look up to now. And I have asked him a lot of advice and questions, and he's helped me out a lot. He's just all around a great guy. So it started out as this whole obsession. It really was, but it kind of turned into a friendship, and it's really cool for me to sit here and say that one of the people that I looked up to whenever I started in this is somebody that I'm friends with. Mm-hmm. That is the weirdest thing to me. But so I went to his show, and it was just the energy that he brought on stage. Obviously they go by his name, but it wasn't William Clark Green and his band. It was just it was one really cohesive unit, and I hadn't seen another band perform to that caliber before, and it just blew my mind. And so I was like, what? He's originally from outside of Tyler. He's from Flint. I'm from Winona. And I was like, what? I think it's so cool to see another person who's from a town so close to where I grew up with, that's sitting there and following their dreams and just setting a really, really good example. Because I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but East Texas gets a lot of flack.
Yeah.
And I won't say it's not completely deserved, but I don't think it's deserved to that level. And so I sat and I waited until after the show, and I got to the back of the line because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And I still had kind of my social anxiety. I hadn't completely curbed it yet. I'd been working on it, but I hadn't curbed it. So I was like, we get at the back of the line, that way I don't have to worry about upsetting anybody else who wants to talk to him. And so I sat, I think I waited for an hour. And I finally just, I got up to him and I was like, hey, my name's Terie Lei Moore. I really enjoyed your set. I'm from Tyler too. And I couldn't finish my sentence. He said, oh, you're from Tyler, what part? And I said, Winona. He's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. I'm from Flint. And so we just kind of got to talking about East Texas and whatnot. And finally I went home. And as I was heading home, I was just sitting there and I was like, okay, if he's from Tyler and he can do all this and, really make a name for himself, then why can't I? And of course, that's me sitting there saying that I'd never written a song before. I tried to learn how to play guitar twice and it didn't work for me. And so the next day I started trying to write songs. And a few months later, I was still in Stephenville. I was trying to do summer classes, and if there wasn't much to do beforehand while school was in session, there was even less to do during the summer. And so I asked one of my friends, because I knew he knew how to play guitar. I was like, hey, can you teach me? So he taught me a few chords. And then every day while I was doing the summer classes, I would, whenever I got out of class, I'd open up my laptop and I'd pull up countrytabs.com and I'd find songs that I liked. And luckily, country is a lot of, the same chords over and over again. So that's how I learned how to play. He showed me the basic chord shapes, but as far as transitions, strumming, everything like that, it's all been self-taught. And so that was kind of where I got started learning to play. And then it was right after LJT that a year following it. So that was in 2016. In 2017, there's a bar which everybody knows as Twisted J Live now, but it was called The Twist at the time. They didn't have, the full production over in the warehouse part. And Texas Homegrown Radio is based out of there with Jody Cottle, and him and some of his DJs I met at LJT that year, and they had invited me to come out and because apparently they told me they had a lot of songwriters coming in to play in circles, and they were like, hey, you should come out and play. They didn't know what I sounded like. I didn't play in front of anybody. I was still really, really shy. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And so I went out and, played in the circle and whatnot. And Kenzie Coppin shows up. And I knew exactly who she was. I'd been listening to her for about a year. And like, I was like, she showed up and I was sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, there are two people and that I'm playing songs and she's sitting out here like listening. And so I had half a mind to just like excuse myself to the restroom. But I didn't really get that far by the time it got to be my time. And so I just sat there and played really quietly. And like, it was obvious I was just trying to hide because I was really, really nervous. And she left, and then she had asked Jody if they would ask me if I would open up for her. She was playing there that next night. And I really wanted to say no because I was freaked out, but I was like, no, I moved to Tarleton, I moved to Seedmill to try new things, and this is a new thing. Let me just see how it works. So I was like, okay, yeah, it's just one show. If I hate it, I don't ever have to do it again. If I love it, then, this might be something I pursue. And so Jody had me on the radio twice the next day, and then I got to open up for Kinsey and Garrett. It was a Colorado High vodka tasting party, and it just, I don't even remember actually playing. But everybody was just super, super receptive. And I remember I woke up the next morning and my phone had started to kind of like glitch and crash because I'd gotten a ton of like friend requests. I've gotten follows on my Facebook page. And I won't necessarily say it like blew up overnight because I'm certainly at no level to say that, but there was like a surge of stuff. And I got a lot of show requests for people asking me to come play. And so the way that it started for me, I won't say I didn't have a choice, but it just moved so fast that I didn't even realize what was going on until like 6 months later. I was like, oh, I'm playing music for a living. Like, what's going on?
Right.
And it's kind of progressed from there. I've really enjoyed it so far. It's for someone like me, I didn't actually think that there was an avenue in the Texas music scene for me, just because I am so different. And I think the beautiful thing about it is that the scene in general is so diverse and so different that it's like, it's
the scene in general kind of allows a space for everybody,
right. And that's what I love. It's like really, really inclusive. So that's something that I definitely appreciate about it. It's like, like you're unique just like everybody else. If that kind of makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it really does. So you said you're from Winona. I'm about 5 miles from there right now. I'm
in where?
Big Sandy.
Big Sandy? Oh my God. Drove through there all the time. I had a friend who lived out there for a while.
Oh yeah?
Actually, whenever I came down for Christmas with my family, my mom sent my little brother and I over there to go get some, I think it was some tacos or something like that. I'd eaten like right before I got home, which was a terrible idea. Like, knowing good and well I'm coming home, my parents are going to feed me until I bust. So that wasn't too smart. Yeah, I was just there a few months ago.
Yeah. So there, when I first moved here, I was so disappointed by that taco stand because so many people tell me, "Oh, they're such good tacos," but I moved here from Houston, so that taco stand was not good tacos. I was like, "This is trash." But that was the last time I went there. But I drive by it every day. For sure. So what are some hurdles that you've had in your career?
So it's kind of, recently they've been a lot of hurdles that it's like I've set them there myself rather than stuff that's kind of, obviously the biggest one, which is, what a lot of, really what every woman deals with in the scene is, like we don't have, there's like a stigma attached. So I remember I can't remember who I was talking to, but I had a conversation like right whenever I was first getting started. And I was saying, like, why is it such a big thing that, women aren't represented? Like what's going on here? And I remember whoever it was, he told me it was, he was saying it's because a lot of venues hold this stigma that women can't sell beer. And I was like, that makes no sense to me. Like, what? And so I was like, can you explain that? Because that doesn't, the men aren't selling beer. What are you talking about? They're singing songs. And it didn't click in my head. And he said, the way that, you know, some venues approach it is, you know, men make like, you know, upbeat dancing type music, like blah blah blah, and it's a lot easier to, you know, get drunk to their songs, which is what bars look for. And I was like, so what you're telling me is that people don't actually want to hear music, they just want to get drunk.
Yeah.
And I was like, how does that apply to women? Because I've actually, there's a girl, I don't really know her all that well, but her name's Gracie York. Apparently she just released a single either today or yesterday, and I went and listened to it, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking about this interview, and I was thinking about the conversation that I had. I was like, this is a song that I would like dance to and get drunk to, and like take all my friends to go listen to it. Like, and I don't understand that stigma. And so it's, to me, it's still like this foreign concept that, you know, women are underrepresented, because it's like, to me, it's not, you know, talent and female talent. It's just talent, period. And I mean, I guess, you know, from my position, I kind of have to think that way. Like, if we're just going to be 100% honest here, and I may get some flack for this, but you know, I'm a half black, half white female that sings country music in like the Texas scene. Like, if I'm not an anomaly just there by talking about that, then you listen to my music and you're like, okay, this girl's really off her rocker. Just because it's, everything is so different. It's like I don't feel like I can really pinpoint anything, and so it's hard for me to really talk about my music. I just, at this point, I'm just like, it has to speak for me, because I don't even know how to explain it. And
that's what Charlie Crockett put out. I think it was like a little part of an interview that he did. He put it on Instagram a few months ago, saying that he felt not black enough for some people and not white enough for some people, and that his music would have to just speak for himself.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really have like this group behind him, or a group to be in. And I thought that was pretty wild, you know. It's not something that I have to deal with, you know. I'm part Palestinian, but everybody looks at me like I'm a white girl, you know. It's not something that I have to deal with, so it's not something that I think about enough. You know, I think about women and men are represented differently.
Yeah.
Or a white and black are represented differently.
Right.
But like, you don't think a lot about the biracial group of folks. So.
Yeah. And I was talking to one of my mom's friends about this the other day. I was telling her, like growing up, it's literally, you know, that conversation, like how Charlie was saying, you know, too white for some and too black for others.
Right.
I literally had been told by black people, or African Americans. Sorry, I just like sitting here, because this really just upset me. So I am mixed race, but I was adopted. My entire family is African American. And growing up, I had some people who, you know, like they were full African American. They weren't mixed like me. Tell me that I couldn't understand their struggles because I wasn't fully black, or, you know, I couldn't be in conversations with them because I just didn't understand them. I'm like, do you realize I get hate from both sides? Like,
right.
That's literally what you're doing to me right now. And it's honestly, I experienced a lot more. Oh crap, did that go black?
No, like it got slow, but back.
Hold on, I'm really sorry. Cullen, can you bring me my charger? I did not expect my battery to die that quickly. But you can still see me?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Sorry. I charged my phone, I had like everything set up, and it's half the time I just, you know, stuff ends up happening anyways. But honestly, like playing music in the scene, I was really afraid, just because, you know, of everything else. I'm, you know, half black, half white. I'm a woman, and I'm playing in a country scene, but I don't exactly sing country music.
Right.
And so I was really afraid as to how that was going to be taken. And it hasn't been, overall, it really hasn't been a problem. You know, I've had some people who have, I guess, have tried to explain it to me in a very or like try to be polite about the fact that they're like, they're confused as far as, like how, like, I don't peg the way you look with what you're doing right now.
Right.
But for the most part, people have been pretty accepting of that. And so, yeah, I mean, my biggest hurdle, my biggest struggle right now is just, finding a way to, not just personally, but, for other people who are simply, women like me that want to get into the scene, or, in the case that I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, I couldn't tell you a African American or even a mixed race female that is doing what you're doing in, the scene that you're in right now. Mm-hmm. And so I sat and I thought about it for a while. I hadn't actually thought about it just because, it wasn't really a problem. And I was like, she's right. Like, I can't honestly think about anybody in this specific scene that looks like me. And so it is kind of different. And I guess just because I don't really approach the subject too much, it doesn't really like resonate in my head. But, especially like coming off Black History Month, that was something that one of my cousins was talking to me about as well. She was like, you're doing it, you're doing it well, which I thought was really, really sweet of her, because I'm here like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make it by like everybody else. But, the stigma between men and women. So there's a account on Twitter that I think handles it remarkably. It's called Woman Nashville, or Women, one of the two. I think it's Woman, and it's just trying to bridge that gap there, trying to start that conversation to where it goes from being talent and female talent to where it's just talent, period. And they're doing a really good job of bringing that kind of awareness in. And I think that's phenomenal. So I followed them immediately. But it's just, I feel like it's a really hard subject to breach, because for me, just because I've never fit into a box, it's, can you hit the close button on there? Thank you. For me, I just sitting there thinking, and actually for me, I feel like I actually have to think about it because I've been so different, that it's, it's like one more thing that excludes me from a group. At this point, it's like, it's nothing new. And I hate to say that, but it's just being who I am, not ever fitting in anywhere. It's like, I've dealt with so many struggles at this point, I can't keep up with them. But it's just something that I noticed very quickly as I got more and more into music, looking at festival lineups. I think probably in kind of the country scene, the one that I've seen the most of, females on is the one up at Music Fest. And then Milo, the Key West Fest. Yeah, that's been doing really good too, especially with how new they are. You'd think with a festival starting up, they'd gravitate more towards the more popular people. Mm-hmm. And they so Holly Beth actually played that one this year, and I thought that was really cool, because I was like, I just played a show with her 2 years ago, and now like she's off, like she was the face on the Texas Music Now playlist on Spotify, and I was like, that is awesome. So cool to me. But we definitely need to see a lot more of it, and it needs to. I don't know how to push it, but it just. I know the end goal is just, how I've been saying, it needs to go from where women aren't excluded from the general talent conversation, where it's just, like you can talk about Jamie Lynn Wilson and, Reckless Kelly in the same sentence, and it not be like this stark comparison, because like, like obviously Reckless Kelly is like a huge fan. They've actually been around a year longer than I've been alive. And then Jamie, probably they've been around a while. I love them too, and they're great guys. But it's like, to me, whenever I approach music, I approach it in the sense of how it's written and how it hits me. And to me, it has the same impact. And so it's not a difference between, a woman and a man there. It's just the fact of its talent, period. And I don't know how, I guess that's just been my biggest problem. I don't know how to go about, really advocating for that, aside from, saying, look at this. There's a festival that was just announced here in Oklahoma that literally does not have a single female on it. And I'm just kind of sitting there like that.
Do you ever think about just calling those people and being like, hey, I volunteer.
Yeah,
I want to be the only female on this list.
I tried to kind of put myself out there, but I don't know. I kind of get into my own head, and that's where I go back to, I set my own hurdles. It's like there's stuff that I want to do and people I want to reach out to, and I'm like, I know them, but I'm like, as far as, I'm still struggling getting people out to my shows. Like, I think the most people that I've had out to one of my shows that I knew, I played Fuzzies in Stephenville a little over a year ago. Or it was about a year ago, sorry. And I had maybe about like 15, 20 friends there, give or take. And I say that there's 15 to 20 people that I knew I was friends with. There were more people there that I knew. But it was mainly just like Fuzzies was a game or a place to like pregame before you go out. So it ended up being a really good show for me, but it was still really tough. I was messaging everybody individually, like, hey, are you gonna be able to make it? Like, this is the time I play. Is there anything you want to hear? And I'm still trying to get myself up off the ground, and so I feel really bad. Like, I don't know, I put this guilt in my head trying to reach out to somebody else who's like already made it, or they're on their way, just being like, hey, can I open for you? It's like, that's, for some reason, that's the hardest conversation for me. I don't know how to get past it.
I think anything that you're doing creatively at all, we set our own hurdles. I write books, and so I question myself a lot during the book writing process. Like, why am I even doing this? Nobody wants to read this. This is ridiculous, and then you have everybody that read it, and they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. You have to put it out. But then when you put it out there, you still kind of don't really want to push it because you don't really want anybody to see it or anybody to criticize it.
Yeah.
Same thing like with this podcast or video cast. I don't really know what you call it if there's a YouTube attached, but it's like, I've interviewed some really cool people, but then like I go to watch the video and you criticize yourself so hard that you don't want to put it out because you're like, I'm an idiot. I can't put this online. But then that you owe it to the people that you've recorded with, so you have to. So I think like anything that you're doing creatively at all, you put your own hurdles there because it's kind of like you question yourself, even if you know that it's an idea or that you're good at what you're doing or people are backing you up. You still criticize yourself enough to get in your own way. So I get that. I get being your own hurdle, but
yeah, that's the biggest thing. So going into this year, I was like, I've got this whole big plan, and I've got some of it knocked out. I finally made my website. I've been talking about it for 2 years, and I finally got it done. I'm starting to finalize my plans for music that I'll be releasing. But one of the biggest things that I was noticing at my shows, I was feeling really stagnant. There were certain points where I was like, I can literally feel myself just going through the motions. How do I break myself out of this? And so one of my biggest things that I promised myself this year was that I was going to work on my confidence. I'm not a very outwardly confident person. I don't know. I do make a lot of self-deprecating jokes, and I do see them as jokes, but I know, at the end of the day, those still kind of hold value, at least to some people. And that's something that I know I need to drift away from, because if I'm sitting here even jokingly just saying like, oh, I hate this about myself, or, oh, like, let's laugh at this, it opens a conversation. It makes people think that it's okay to say the same things about me. And then it comes back and it's like, I may have said this about myself, but I didn't want anybody to agree with me. And so it's one of those were the things that I really promised myself I was going to work on. I was going to stop being so even jokingly negative, because I don't know how much truth it holds in my head, but I know it does. And it's stuff that I worry about instead of just like trying to laugh it off, trying to work myself through it. And then also just trying to be more confident, period. Like, how I said, I don't even know how to approach, artists and say, hey, can I open up for you? I don't know how to push that conversation. And it just makes me really scared. So I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. I don't have to do that, right? And so I guess I'm trying to learn how to have a little bit less shame, if that makes any sense. Just because I am a person that just kind of like sits on the sidelines. I typically don't try to get it in anybody's face, or I'm not trying to be the center of attention. And I think my lack of confidence has really been one of my biggest problems. Has been like whenever I post videos, like my live videos usually do pretty well on Facebook, but I have almost 4,000 friends, so I would hope so.
Right.
But typically whenever I post videos, I'll even sit and promote them. But just because I'm not all that great at really exuding my own confidence, because I guess I don't have a lot, or I do and I just don't know how to show it. Um, I feel like that's really been hurting. I hate to make it a numbers game, but it really has been hurting my numbers. And it's like I I need to show something to, the venues that show that whenever people come in, they're going to want to stay there, and not just because, they like the bar, but because they also like the talent. And, the longer they stay and listen to somebody, the more beer they're going to drink and the more money a bar is going to make. So the more I can come back. And I'm trying to push out whatever confidence I have with them, where I can start showing it. Because I do really feel like, people typically gravitate towards a very, confident person, especially confident women. Like, Miranda Lambert, if she acted the way that I did, I don't think she would be where she is right now.
Right.
And even like Brandy Carlisle, I absolutely love her. She's a little bit more mellow, but she still has this air of confidence about her. Like, have you seen some of the stuff she wears? I wish I could.
Right.
And so it's, I sit here and I look at like all my idols are strong women, those two, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Courtney Patton, Brie Bagwell, Caitlin Butts, like, these are all very strong, but outwardly confident people. And, there are some that are a little bit more quiet about it, like Courtney and Jamie, and some that are like, like, yeah, I'm a strong woman, like Brie and Caitlin. And I can look at both of them and I can sit there and be like, that's who I want to be. I just want to be able to show people that, this life really does make me happy, and being able to make music that people can relate to is an absolute blessing. And I just, right now, I'm just struggling with kind of, you know, making myself believe that I actually can be a confident person without, people being, oh, what's the word? My words have not been coming to me today. Just without people kind of being turned off by, like the difference between like confident and cocky.
Right.
And so, because I'm so afraid of crossing that line into being considered cocky, it's like I don't even try to broach the confidence. And so it's like I see these women and I see that that's what I want to be like. And that's how I want to be, thought of as, just as this like really strong, happy person. And I don't know how to show it. So there's a disconnect there that I've been trying to work on. And that's my goal this year. So hopefully, we'll see some visual growth is kind of what I'm shooting for. But I can't remember what the question was.
Hurdles. Your hurdles right now. So yeah. I think you got that.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
What are you currently working on?
Oh,
I have a dog barking too.
We just put Rosie up. So I've been considering a little over a year with my full length album. I essentially had, whenever I'd started writing songs in hopes of making an album, I didn't necessarily shape them. And so whenever I started getting an idea together of what I wanted to do, I sat down and I looked through all the songs that I'd written that I felt like were decent enough to put on an album. And I realized very quickly I have 2 albums right now. I've got one that's like a collection of ideas and something that it's not like I'm really partial to story albums. And so this first one is more of just like a collection. It kind of all revolves around the same theme, but there are a lot of really different songs. And then I've got another one, which is the one that I was originally hoping to work on. That's a concept album. And so it's kind of similar to how Josh Abbott did, Front Row Seat, and how Parker McCollum did Oh crap! Please tell me it's called Probably Wrong. I think.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. I really hope I'm not wrong on that one. But as the name is, probably. But like how, so with Josh's album, how he split it into 5 acts, which I thought was really cool, kind of, tying it into the apparent theater or, like movie scene. Um, and then with Parker, I really liked how he split it up into 4 different releases. Um, and so I kind of wanted to combine the 2 thoughts. And so like each release that I did, I wanted it to have a specific theme. So that album is the one that I'm actually almost finished with. So this is the one that I'm going to go with. And actually, I haven't really talked to anybody else about it, so you're going to be first. But so it's called Thorns. And whenever I was putting this album together, I just remember I was sitting at home and I was sitting there like, a lot of my friends, we were just friends, or like we were friends like before I started playing music. And so now, they see me playing music and they're like, oh, hey, that's a girl that, I know. And like, she's doing really good and whatnot. And they were like, your life looks so great. The typical blah, 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 like whatever. You don't really know about what it's like being a musician. And there are a lot of parts about it that are great. And then there's some stuff, that we struggle with, especially, going back to the underrepresentation of women. And so my goal with Thorns, I mainly had it based around the album art that I want to do. So I go by the Rose Queen. Again, being from Tyler, that's anybody who's familiar with the Tyler area understands that. Anybody who's not, they typically think that it's a nod towards William Clark Green's song, which is actually not. But me being a big fan of his, I can see like why people would think that. But I do go by the Rose Queen, and so my idea was to kind of revolve everything around around roses. Like in my EP, the album artwork has roses in it around the 281 sign.
Right.
And so this one, what I was thinking of was it's kind of like you're looking at the scene, and there's a woman there, and she's standing in front of a mirror, and in the mirror you see like this beautiful young looking woman. She's got a crown on, like this really cool like royalty dress type.
A rose
dress. Oh my god. But she looks like a queen. Yeah. And it's just, beautiful necklace, like all this really intricate detail to it. And, not a hair out of place, just an absolute perfect picture. But where you're sitting, you can see the mirror, but you can also see the scene around you. And in the scene around you, what you see is like this just a deteriorating room, and the edges of the mirror, like the frame of it, the very edges of it look like it's like it's been around for 200-300 years, just really old and starting to fall apart. And that's how the rest of the room is. And you see the woman, and you can kind of see a little bit of the age lines in her face, and her hair is just falling down, and it looks like it's kind of falling out. The crown is tarnished, like the dress is just turned to rags. And you see just like one singular tear is kind of what I'm hoping for. And so my goal with Thorns essentially is there are certain parts of the life that are great that you can see. But while it looks like you're sleeping on a bed of roses, there are thorns underneath that you have no idea, like how we deal with them. You don't even know they exist because you can't see them for the roses. And so it was my goal that was to show everything that I've experienced in the music scene. At first, I was thinking, what musicians deal with, and I wanted to interview a lot of people that would kind of get some ideas so I could really shape my songs that way. But I realized, especially with me being so new to music in general, it's going to be really hard for me to try to encompass somebody else's experience. So right now I'm working on 5 parts, and the last part is the one that I'm working on right now. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, but essentially it's relationships and like how they're tested, because you're on the road so much. Like my biggest one that was tested is actually not with Cullen, because he understands. And whenever we met, I was playing music, so it's like it's been throughout the entire relationship. He's really easygoing. But my biggest relationship that's been tested has actually been with my family. Whenever I moved away, I felt really closed off and he sucks. And I was like, I want to feel free. I want to go do my own thing. And so I essentially moved to college and I only came back for holidays. And right whenever I was starting to come back home more and actually trying to rebuild a relationship with my family, music happened. And so I wasn't even like at home where I lived, let alone, going home to see my family. And so I've missed a lot of things because of music that I really wish I wouldn't have. But on the flip side, I wouldn't change those experiences that I got because of it. Because like there was one, I hate to say it, I missed my brother's graduation,
Right.
but that was because I had played my first ever show. So literally, if I had to play that show, I don't know if I would be sitting here right now. And he and I talked about it. He finally, forgave me for it, and I made his bachelor's graduation. So I like I kind of made up for it a little bit. But it's like, so the part about relationships is the give and take and trying to find a balance there for you, and it's different for everyone. And another one is talking about being on the road by yourself, because I've got one of my newest songs that I released is called Blacktown Car, and it literally says 1,000 miles in a day or so, and sleep seems unimportant, even though the film over my eyes is begging me to slow down or like slow my roll. And that's literally my experience playing music, or like, traveling to and from these shows in just a few words. Like, now that I live in Oklahoma, I'm driving typically an average of 5 to 10 hours to a lot of shows. Versus whenever I lived in Stephenville, if I drove 5 hours, it was in another state typically. And so it's spending more and more time on the road. I've had more oil changes than I can count at this point, just because I am driving around so much and I'm by myself. And on longer drives, I'll listen to music for a few hours and I just cut everything off and it's just silent. And I'm just there with my own thoughts. And it's like this demon riding in the back seat that I can't escape from sometimes. But it's also where I get my best written songs, because I have nothing there to distract me. I'm just thinking. And so that's how the 281 project came to be. Those are all songs that I had written actually while I was on Highway 281.
Okay.
Because the way I typically do them is I do a voice memo. And what's really cool on the voice memos on iPhone is it shows you where you recorded those. And every single one of those songs, because whenever I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my EP, I was going through my voice memos. I was like, these are all, I don't know which is which, because they all say Highway 281. Like, and so that's how I got the name for the album or the EP. And so with the road part, which I'm not sure what I'm naming it right now. Right now, I'm just calling it the road. It's kind of diving a little bit more into how I'm actually thinking and feeling, and how that affects the rest of my life. Like missing a lot of stuff with my family and with Cullen, and possibly missing out on opportunities to chase a huge opportunity. And so it's just the entire album is essentially just talking about the give and take and the struggle there. You can't have a rose for the thorns, and that's where Thorns kind of came from. And I was struggling with renaming it for a while, because whenever I do get a band together, I want to name them the Thorns. I just can't find anything else that fits. And so I'm like, if anything, with this album, what I'm working on right now is actually getting a band together. So by the time I go and record this and release it, it's not just, an album that's released. It's a autobiography of this band and of the music that we make. That's what I'm shooting for. And so like, just to hit it really, really hard whenever it comes out. But I've been so stressed with it recently and trying to figure out the kinks that I've honestly put it to the side. I've got it almost finished, but it's just getting so in my head about it. At this point, I don't even know what direction I want to take. So I just put out a tweet, I think last week. I was talking to one of my friends up here who runs some open mics, and he's been in the scene for a while, and he told me the library up here has recording equipment, and like we could record acoustic stuff. And so I just went to Twitter. I was like, hey, if I release like an acoustic album, would any of y'all listen to that? And I put it on my Facebook too, and I got a lot of really great responses. And so I'm actually thinking about doing, or actually I'm working on doing like an acoustic album to kind of fill the gap, just to make sure that I have everything in order whenever I'm ready to release Thorns. So tentative release date right now is going to be September 18th because I'm going to be naming the acoustic album 918 in reference to the Oklahoma area code. Because all the songs that are going to be on there are what, aside from two, I've written here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And it's just kind of encompassing where I am now. And I'm currently in the middle of rebranding myself and trying, just because I guess I won't necessarily say rebranding. I'm just trying to brand myself because I have been so different. My music's all over the place. I don't think I conform to a genre. And so without having that kind of descriptor for me, I need to find one way to consistently show this is who I am. Because right now, it's the most consistent thing is the fact that I have been so inconsistent. Like, I'll show up one day in like boots, jeans, a buckle, wild rag, like press shirt and hat, and I'll show up the next day in a mini skirt and like heels and this like drapey, really colorful thing and like this little headband going on. And it's like even so much as my look is, it's just about as varying as my music is. And so right now I'm trying to find one specific direction to go into and see if that will kind of, really help spearhead my career. So right now, 918, I plan on releasing this year. I'm either going to record it here in Oklahoma or I'm actually going to go, I looked it up. I can rent Sun Studios in Memphis, Tennessee for $200 an hour for 5 hours. So I'm definitely considering that one. It's 5.5 hours from here. But regardless, I will be recording it in May. I'm doing a really, really cool photo shoot with Blaine Bowen, who's been blowing up as far as Twitter goes with his photography. He's worked with Kane and Bryce and Holly Beth and he's got some phenomenal work. And so whenever I was thinking about what direction I'm going to go in, I was like, I want to work with him because he's doing a lot of stuff that I feel like really fits the image that I have for myself and that I want to really show to the world. So I mean, right now I'm just working on the acoustic album, trying to clear my head so I can get back to the full-length album with new motive and be able to actually finish it and just kind of set it to the side for now so I don't overthink it and end up doing something that I hate. And then just working on really branding myself the way that I need to, because unfortunately it kind of is a numbers game. People will sit there and go like, oh, I've never heard of her, but she's got, like thousands of retweets and likes and whatnot. And she's got a lot of followers. I should follow her too. It's like, it's like a peer pressure thing almost.
Right.
And so I'm trying to find a way right now to breach that or kind of bridge that gap and see how I can get people a little bit more interested. Because my dad jokes weren't working for me. So I'm trying to find something just a little bit different. But right now I'm just trying to get it all together, I guess, because it's music's finally slowed down for me enough to where I can actually sit back and take a look at things and really have a definitive idea of how I want to move forward. And the great thing about playing music is, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. It's just what's best for you. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. But hopefully by September, with the release of that acoustic album, I will have that new momentum going forward to release Thorns. I plan to release it no more than a year after that. So,
well, you'll have to keep me in the loop on that, and you can come back and sit in the tub and show us a picture of the album and let us listen to some of it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited. It's long time coming.
I saw that at Steamboat you got on the stage with a couple of really cool people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of a highlight for you?
Oh my God. So the way that happened, I was sitting there was like a second story like mini lobby, I guess, or like sitting area. And I had just come back from Morgan Ashley and Mercedes Carroll were playing at Double Diamonds. And then there was about like give or take an hour between whenever they got done and then whenever Jamie Lynn played in the Grand Ballroom. And so I was like, you know what? I've got the time. My guitar's here up at the hotel. I'm going to do something that really makes me uncomfortable because playing music where I know other people can hear me, but they did not come to see me. Like if it's just in passing, that makes me really, really uncomfortable because I'm like, they're probably like judging me. They think that I'm like, trying to be conceited and get people to listen to me. And for some reason, that's just where my brain goes. I don't know why. So like, I'm gonna do this because I know it makes me uncomfortable, and just see how it goes. And so, not wanting to be in the lower lobby, partially because I knew people weren't gonna be able to hear me because I Facebook Lived it, but also partially because I was like, there's a lot of people coming in and out of here, and I'm not that comfortable yet. So I went up to the second story, and I was doing a I was getting ready to do a live video, and Jen, Jamie's manager, like was walking by, and I didn't even recognize her at first. I was like doing my whole blinders thing, like just trying to focus on the video and not look at anybody that was going by, because I know if I looked up and I paid attention to people, I was gonna chicken out. And so she was like, "Hey, are you coming to see Jamie?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna record this video real quick, and then I'm gonna head down that way." And she said, "Okay," and like talked to me for a little bit, and she left. And then she came back and he's like, "Hey, so whenever Jamie plays Oklahoma Stars, she's gonna put you on stage." And I was like, "What? Are you what?" And she's like, "Yeah, like if you want to." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I mean, I do. Yeah, sure, okay." And so like in my mind, I was thinking like crap. But I didn't realize that it was going to be Jamie Lynn Wilson, Courtney Patton, me, Jen, and Willie Braun up all on the same stage together. And then whenever they finally pulled me back, like I was walking through the hall, I see so many people that I know, and I'm just like, this is so weird. It's like I know you, but like in my mind, I was like, I'm not supposed to be back here. Like I'm not one of the music fest artists. Like I know these people, but I don't like, I'm not on their level. And so I got really scared about the whole thing. So I was sitting there like holding my stomach the whole time, and I feel really stupid because I didn't put my drink down. But it was just like, I walked up there and just got started, but it ended up being so great. And that's actually the second time Jamie's had me up to sing Oklahoma Stars with her. And so it was really cool for me because my three biggest heroes are Jamie Lynn Wilson and Courtney Patton. I always put them together. I can't choose one or the other. I love them both. To me, they're like two heads of the same my words, they're leaving me. For somebody who makes a living off of words, I certainly don't know how to use them. But they're like, to me, they're different but the same. And so I can't put one or the other. I love them both. And so to be on stage with, and the other ones obviously will, but to be on stage with my two biggest heroes, I was just sitting there like, is this actually happening? And so I think because it hadn't fully set in what was happening, I think I actually did a lot better to where people could hear me and whatnot. I had some friends that were out there, and they got videos and pictures for me. It was just this really cool ordeal. But Jamie's been phenomenal about just like taking me under her wing, especially with me being her and Will had her, Will, and Courtney. They've all had pretty similar experiences with me. It's like I'm a huge fan, and they've been able to ignore my fangirling and actually talk to me as a person. This has been great. Because like Courtney, I was working at Heart 8 in Stephenville, and her kids came in, and I was like, these kids look really familiar, and I don't know why, because I know I've never met them before. And then Jason walked in, and I was like, oh crap, whoa, wait. And then Courtney walked in, I lost my mind. I was just there like, oh my God, like this is Courtney Patton. She's standing right in front of me, and I'm at workout. Like, what's going on? Like, I just completely fangirl. And she told me her kids were like, later they're like, yeah, no, she was like so excited about you, just like her big idol and whatnot. And I got a picture with both of them that day. Jamie, I don't remember the first time we met, but I remember every single time I'd like, a lot of the Turnpike shows that I went to, so I met her at the Hangover Ball in 2018. But like every time I would go to a Turnpike show, they'd have Jamie come on. It was like every show that I went to, it was like Jamie also went to. It was really cool to me. And so they pulled her up to sing, Call a Spade a Spade. And Jamie would come up, and I would just lose my mind, like screaming like a mad woman on the stage, or in the front row of the stage. She'd see me, and she'd like wave, and just like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like what's going on? And so to be like to be able to actually communicate with these two women and for them to care about, you know, my music and what I'm doing, for me, that's been such a surreal experience because, you know, like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people who have idols that they look up to that they may meet once or twice in their life, but how many of them can say I'm friends with this person? Like this person gives me advice, like especially, you know, whenever they've made it, maybe so. But considering the fact that I'm still, you know, just working on getting people to listen to me for more than 30 seconds, for these women who have been really iconic, not just to me, but to the scene, speaking to me just like, you know, as a friend, as a person that, you know, as something more than, you know, just a person who came to like a show or two of theirs, but to actually see that, you know, I have this love for music and for their music, and I have a passion, and they're willing to help me really work on that and grow through it. That's been something, and Will's been really great about that too. That's just been something that's been phenomenal to me, you know, just to have that support system, because I feel like there's two of probably some of the best people to look up to, period, in the scene. Like not just two of the best women, two of the best people, period. They're phenomenal. I love them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, definitely. I kind of had one of the same, similar experience. I went to go see Sturgill play in Sugarland a couple of years ago. And when I got there, Jason and Courtney came out on the stage. I didn't know that they were opening for him. They came out on the stage. I was telling my friend, I was like, oh my God, she's getting to open for Sturgill. They made it. And then Courtney waved to me. Like, because we were right up front and she waved to me, and I was like, wait a second. She's opening for Sturgill Simpson and she's waving to me. That is wild, you know? So I get that. Like, it's really cool that they, you know, you put people up on this pedestal and then you see that they're still people. It's really cool.
Like they step down from it to get on your level.
Yeah.
That is the coolest thing.
Yeah. So I hate to cut you off. I've really enjoyed talking with you, but I have somebody at 9. And since we're filming this on my phone, I can't tell them that I'm still talking. So,
okay, sorry.
But no, it's fine. But I do want to ask you before I go, who would you challenge to come do this podcast next? Who do you want to see sitting in a tub?
Oh man, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think I know. I don't know if you can like read any of this like text right now, but I'm actually wearing a shirt. Oh, and it hasn't gotten soaked, so I don't know if you can see it. But it says Jeff Crosby and the Refugees. I love Jeff Crosby. He is so phenomenal. He runs around with Reckless Kelly a lot, and Mickey and the Motor Cars, and he's got some phenomenal stuff. His most recent, I'm hoping his most recent album, because I keep up with his music, but I'm like, if he slipped something in that I didn't know about, then he might have released a single or two. But his most recent album is called Postcards from Magdalena, and it is just, oh my God, it is a dream to listen to. It's absolutely phenomenal. I got to see him for the first time at Green Hall right before my 21st birthday. He was opening for Reckless Kelly, and dude, I didn't know who he was. To me, he looked a lot like Sawyer McGee, who's, you know, a drummer in the scene. And I was like, I feel like I know this guy. Then he got up on stage and he was singing. I was like, nope, that's not the guy I know. But by the end of that, I was sitting there like jamming along, like I was figuring out the choruses as I was listening, and I was singing along as much as I could. And I've been a huge fan of his ever since. He's a great guy. So I would definitely challenge him. And then also one of my really good friends, Jade Patton.
Okay.
Oh my God. She's got, like, she sings like a bird. Like, has this soulful, really just all-encompassing voice. I can't even explain it, but she's just, Flybird is her recent EP, and it's so beautiful. Like, she's such an amazing person. So those would be the two off the top of my head that I would challenge.
All right. Well, I would love to talk to you again. Definitely need to have you back when you come out with the 918 project and Thorns.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much for talking to me. Thanks for being uncomfortable in water with clothes on.
So it's not too bad. I'm in like a swimsuit shorts right now, so I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't do the jeans. I thought about it.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to peel them off.
Yeah, I did that once, and that's a no-go. Don't want to do that again.
Oh yeah. But thank you for having me. I really
All right.
appreciate it. This
Yeah,
is just a
thank
really
you.
cool idea in general.
So this should be out next weekish sometime, and I'll give you a heads up.
Cool. Yeah. Just shoot me a text and I'll share it on everything and see if I can post like some snippets with the link, and then I can actually, if I have the link, I can actually put it on my website as well.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
I'll make that. I'll try and figure out how to put it on my homepage. Still learning.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.